I can tell you the pet stores won't even buy snakes from breeders unless they're at like ridiculous low prices, because the way that the pet stores work is the pet stores usually will get wild caught animals brought in from the importers that get them for dirt cheap, so they pay like 50 bucks a snake or less, and then they sell them for about $200. And that's how the whole pet stores work for the most part. Where what we kind of should have is the pet stores should hook up with the breeders and then just say, okay, I'll do commission with you. I'll give you some snakes, you sell them, and we'll split the profits. To me, I think that would be fair, and then we would have a lot better quality pets inside the pet stores, as opposed to getting snakes from the wild and dealing with all that, because snakes in the wild end up having, you know, parasites and all sorts of other things. But you know what's interesting? Snakes from the wild don't have IBD. It's something that is just common in the pet industry. So why is it that the snakes in the wild are not being found with this virus, and that snakes in captivity are? Also, if a virus, sickness, disease is uncurable, it's uncurable. It can't get better. If it does get better, so if you have an animal that has a sickness and it gets better, that means it's producing antibodies. It can't produce antibodies if it's uncurable. So let's say AIDS or cancer, let's say cancer. Cancer we have no cure for. You get cancer, you can kind of treat it, you can kind of maintain it, but it doesn't get better, it doesn't go away, and slowly it kills you. Or AIDS weakens your immune system, and then often you die from other things. It's not really the AIDS that kills you, but the AIDS kills your immune system, then you become susceptible to things, and then you become sick and die. Now with this, if it was like that, it would be uncurable, they'd get worse, and they'd die no matter what. But I found a guy named Brandon Davis, and he has been treating snakes with clinically ill IBD. So not snakes like mine, so like none of my snakes are showing any symptoms of IBD. They've tested positive on the swab test, but none of them are swirling around, none of them are not eating, none of them are showing any signs of sickness. They're fully healthy, they're not making weird breathing sounds, they're doing totally fine. So they seem and look and are perfectly healthy snakes. And Nico seemed totally fine too, and started declining later. And I think that Alex kept Nico perfectly fine, all good conditions and everything, but something might have been funny there too, who knows? Like there's a whole pile of things that we do not know. So now we have Brandon. And Brandon had a channel called like the Boa's Lair, but now I think it's like Snake Virus Whisper. So he changed his name from the Boa Lair or something like that. He changed it to Snake Virus Whisperer. So he's worked with snakes and seen them kind of coming from imports and stuff from the wild, and noticed that like none of these problems came from the snakes in the wild. So now if you're going to ask Chad, what are you guys doing to treat it or to try to find a cure? Are you trying to find a cure to IBD or to Irina? And they aren't. So all the testing that has been done for this has not been about trying to cure it. It's been about trying to identify it, show how it works. So there's been times with the tests where they've, instead of exposing the snakes to the virus and letting them get it, they're injecting the snakes with the virus. And then the snake doesn't die, it's okay, so they inject it again, and then it does die. So they're kind of loading up the snake, and from what I've seen the tests, they're injecting it straight into the heart or whatever. I'm not 100% on that. It's just, there's a lot of stuff to be researched, and I haven't researched it all. I haven't dove deep into researching more about arenavirus and IBD because I've been depressed. I've been depressed financially, I've been depressed emotionally. I found out that one of my best friends died. I made the video about that before, and all this stuff has happened, and I'm also working on a pile of different projects. So like with drones, I designed a drone, and all these things all at once. And then having a kid and all of that has just, I haven't had time to even make this video for you. And I really wanted to go through everything. Brandon, the Snake Virus Whisperer on YouTube, I found his channel, and he has treated, I think, 5 snakes that came to him. So he's found people with snakes that basically have, where snake's clinically ill, it's gone to the doctor, it has IBD, and he's totally cured them. So he's taken them from clinically sick animals to animals that are perfectly healthy now. And he's planning to test them later, and he believes that they will come back as negative. But he also, like, in a way, kind of, who cares if the snake is cured, if it's curable? That means that we don't have a disease that's uncurable or a virus that is uncurable. It means that the snakes can develop the antibodies and cure themselves. So it all of a sudden becomes something that's treatable. And he's taken these snakes, cured them basically, and then brought new snakes in that have the same issue, and the snakes have not been reinfecting the original snakes that he's cured. So the way that it seems to transfer might not even be that it transfers. We don't know if the snakes are just carrying it, and that certain conditions allow it to manifest itself. We don't really know how exactly they get it. According to Chad, it can be transferred by like touch, like by saliva and through sex. But the thing is that if it's curable, then they're not getting it back. And what Brandon has basically said is that the reason that our snakes are getting these problems is because there's things from the wild that they get to eat that we're not giving them. So we're all feeding our pet snakes feeder rats. What are feeder rats being fed? Feeder rats are being fed rat food, basically pellets. So who knows what those are made out of? Like they're probably made out of cheap stuff and genetically modified stuff, who knows? But the point is that when snakes are in the wild, they're eating bats. They're eating all sorts of stuff that's infested with all sorts of diseases and stuff, and they're totally okay. Or they could have stuff too, but it's just they're not getting this specific virus. And he thinks it's because there's certain oils and the feeders out in the wild are eating mostly fruits and vegetables and leaves and stuff like that, and seeds, and so all the feeders in the wild are eating more nutritious things. And then because of that, when the snake eats them, it gets those nutritious things. It gets these oils and stuff that our pet snakes don't get. So he did a lot of research into kind of what they're lacking that they would kind of have in the wild, and he found something called hydroxytyrosol and some other oils and stuff. He understands a lot better than I do, but basically he started buying olive leaf extract and oils that have something called hydroxytyrosol. And using hydroxytyrosol, he's been able to go through like a thing where he's cured his snakes, and he has his methods. He has it all up on his YouTube, and you can literally see his snake go from being sick to being okay. And with my snakes, they don't look like they're sick, so I'm not treating them. But if they were to start showing any symptoms, then I would treat them the same way that he's doing it. And I believe that it is curable unless it goes uncared for and unless it progresses.